little small speaker. So that if we do any audio. It's not on.
And welcome into a another Alabama tradition. I'm Ryan Fowler with Martin Houston. We're going to talk some Alabama Crimson Tide football. We're going to recap the Arkansas game, but really begin to turn our attention toward Alabama and LSU. Number 1 against number 2. Will they be number 1 or will Alabama be number 1? Now we know the AP poll. When you talk about the AP poll, Alabama is number 2, LSU is number 1. When you look at the coaches poll, Alabama number 1, LSU number 2. We're going to talk about it. Which one deserves to be number 1 when you look at the resume? We're going to talk about confidence with Alabama and LSU, but first things first, we'll go back and spend some time looking back at Alabama's victory over Arkansas. Inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, it was the who's who. When you talk about Mark Ingram, Joe Namath, Jerry Jones, the 2009 National Championship team recognized a 10th anniversary for those guys. Nick Saban, you could see him smiling ear to ear prior to the game, going out and saluting a lot of those teammates. Were able to win that 2009 national title that really got the dynasty started when you look at Alabama Crimson Tide football. Let's get a little bit of a generic open. When you look at Alabama doing some things to make LSU think, or did they? Maybe. Mac Jones answering the call. Martin Houston told you last week right here on this show that the Mac truck was going to get started. And he did. Mac Jones was able to get the job done. Martin Houston, it was good to see you, man. I hope all is well.
All is well, Ryan. And I just got to give a shout out that has he ate any crow yet?
Oh, yeah. No. Listen, we've served
21 to, what was it, 21-13? Or 21-10? I mean,
21 to 10.
Hey, did you see I started to actually put your name on the tweet where it said there's room on the Mac truck. I started to specifically put your name in there, but I didn't. But there is.
I went out on a limb. I had a hot take. It backfired. But if you're going to make a hot take, make one that you're okay with being wrong about.
And that's what you said.
He produces, and Lord did he.
Yeah, and your whole thing was you said, listen, I hope I'm absolutely wrong. And Mac Jones showed that just because he was the backup quarterback doesn't mean that he doesn't have the talent to be an SEC starter, especially, Ryan, with the talent that we saw on Saturday night. What I think, as great as Tua is, and don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I want Tua Tagovailoa leading this team when we go to LSU. But I also hope these coaches realize if we're having an issue with an outside running game, it's their fault. You need to give those guys, Judy and Smith and Waddle, the ball on those speed sweeps, rugs, and things like that, because I think they can help our outside running game, even though they call them passes. They're just sweeps. And use some of those bubble screens and things like that. So totally pleased with what happened on Saturday.
All right, when you look at Mac Jones, is this an early race? Because Martin and I love to debate quarterbacks, right? Okay, so you go ahead and jump on the Mac, not just for now, but is the 2020 race early? Is Mac Jones? Because you think about Bryce Young. Now, Nick Saban's going to sell Bryce Young that he can come in and compete, and rightfully so. He will be able to compete. He's a hotshot young man at Mater Dei High School there in California. Bryce Young, and just everything that you look at a quarterback, he's got all those skill sets. You've got Talia Tagovailoa. You've got Coach Bryant's great-grandson, Paul Tyson. 2020 early lead. Like when we talk about, on election night, they always stand up in front of a screen and they say it's too close to call. You can be that guy, too close to call. Or is the Mac Jones off to a really good start in the campaign? I mean, I think he's off to a really good start. What do you think?
I think he's definitely off to a really good start, Ryan, when it comes to winning the job. But I've said this on my show. Mac Jones is going to be the starting quarterback coming out of spring, regardless. I mean,
Sure.
not regardless.
Right.
Mac Jones, because Saban is not going to go into next season with and they're talented. Talia showed a little bit, even in his limited exposure. Bryce Young is going to be a competitor. Paul Tyson isn't going to surrender, that role. But there's no way Saban lets him leave this campus, before fall camp.
Sure.
Now he could leave because he lost his job in the fall camp.
How much of it is about managing quarterbacks?
That's totally what it is. And, we don't want to be hit with what we've seen other people get hit with. So I definitely think Mac Jones, though, made a statement, Ryan, that Alabama fans, if the weapons are there, it's a different, I told you it would be a different offense, but it could be an effective offense.
All right, when you look at Alabama's offensive line, I think the turning point for me for this offensive line, you got to go back to Texas A&M. When they went on the road, I thought the offensive line began to get better. Yes, you added a Deontay Brown. That's just a physical presence on that side. And I know when Evan Neal went out, that's a big guy too. But Emil Ekiyor came in, and you really don't lose a lot when you bring in Emil Ekiyor. He's got a lot of experience when you talk about playing with that left guard. And he did for pretty much a lot of that game when Evan Neal went down. So when you look at Landon Dickerson, they played Chris Owens. They got a great offensive line. And even when they stack 2 tight ends in there and they put 7 offensive linemen, that's going to give LSU a lot to think about offensively. And I just like this offensive line. This offensive line is coming together, but it's about 5 or 6 games late. I thought it would be early in the season that this offensive line would not be 2012 good. I've said this multiple times. 2012 is never going to be reached. It's just not going to get there. That's the greatest offensive line I've ever seen in college football. But I thought this offensive line would have a chance to be Nick Saban's second best offensive line. Jacob, I'll eat some crow. Bring me some of that crow, that crispy stuff you had a couple of minutes ago. Because they haven't been. But I think they're getting some confidence, and I think they're taking some steps in the right direction with Alabama. Arkansas, even though it's a bad opponent, I like what I see in this offensive line.
And I would disagree with you that this offensive line can't be as good as 2012. I think this offensive line could be his most talented, most dominant, most physical. Because they've proven, Ryan, that this offensive line is a better pass blocking offensive line than that last one. What you have to understand, Ryan, this is only week 2 for this offensive line. This is only week 2.
3.
No, week 2.
Texas A&M.
Who started Texas
Tennessee.
A&M? Who started Texas A&M? Chris Owens did. All right?
Okay.
Yeah, Landon Dickerson started
That was
Tennessee.
Deontay Brown's, I guess.
It was Deontay Brown's first day,
Right.
but it wasn't this offensive line's first. It wasn't when you had. Think about the middle of this offensive line.
Actually,
right?
you see, Deontay Brown was
Came back Texas A&M.
Was it Texas A&M or Ole Miss? It was 4 game suspension. So you had Duke, New Mexico State, South Carolina, Southern Miss.
So he came back. Oh, he
would've
didn't start Ole Miss.
Right.
He
yes,
started.
You're 100%
He
correct.
started. His first start was Texas A&M,
And that's fair for Nick
and,
Saban to kind of let that competition sort of play out.
And I believe, well, it may have been the Texas A&M may have been Landon Dickerson. This may have been the 3rd week, but either way, they're only 3 games in. Even though we're 8 games in, chemistry is what happens with offensive line, Ryan. And in the middle, Ryan, this team gets pushed when Dickerson's in there.
They do.
And Dickerson
Why
is
is that?
300.
Is it just simple?
Ryan, he's 320 pounds and he's the little guy.
Have you seen the photo? Have you seen the photo? And this is Scott Cochran. Okay, Landon Dickerson arrived here in June. He was a grad transfer. Have you seen the photo of Florida State last year?
How much he's grown?
And how much, just look at his physical makeup.
Yeah.
Whatever they're doing over here,
it works.
It works.
Yeah. So when you look at it, Ryan, he is easily He's the smallest guy, but he's sandwiched between a 335, 40-pound right guard and a 350-pound left guard, and they're only going to get better. The thing that we as fans don't recognize and realize, Ryan, think about basketball. When you think about it in basketball, you learn to know how each other move, right? There's the no-look passes in basketball because you played together so long. You know when that guy is going to do. Well, when these guys are blocking, Ryan, they have to get to the point where, say for instance, it's you, I, and Jacob. Well, the first time we go out there, I don't know how you step with your left foot. So you and I may actually have times where I step with my right foot, you step with your left foot, and we actually bump each other. And we don't give off blocks as well and pass off blocks as well. And our double teams are over, or one guy doesn't come over far enough. But over time, these guys start figuring each other out and how each other pass blocks, how they pass blocks off. And now all of a sudden, there's no slip through. You see those guys when all of a sudden the guy slips through to a double team. It's because one guy thought I was going to step here and the other guy didn't, and we left that gap. So I think this offensive line, Ryan, it has the potential, because they're already better from a pass blocking standpoint. I believe they can become a dominant run block if the tight end situation continues to flourish. Because right now we can't run the ball effectively outside unless we have an offensive lineman in there.
We're talking Alabama tradition with Mark Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. We're talking more about this Alabama victory, but we're going to celebrate something that Mark Houston got a big news announcement. We're going to talk about it right here on Alabama Tradition with Martin Houston, Ryan Fowler, right here on Tide 100.9, the home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
Using an overpriced trash bag?
Hey, just drop in some of mine if you
I just split. The next break was almost 4 minutes, so I just split them. But
okay.
Yeah, I ran out to see if I could catch Tommy. I didn't see him, so that's all I could think to do.
Yeah, well, you can even put some of mine in there if you need to. I mean, I'd rather do that than just be real quick.
Yeah, well, I put it up to about 2 minutes.
Because we really need the segments to be about 12 minutes long when I send it out. That's the only thing.
Yeah, you'd still be on pace.
Okay.
The best prices. But Hilton.com has the price match guarantee. Look me in the eye. If you find a better rate, they match it and take 25% off. Yeah, well, this is radio, so just stare at the radio. Hilton.com has the best prices. Inky swear. Or, radio swear. Plus, you can choose your exact room and get free Wi-Fi. Cross my heart, stick a needle in my radio. Expect better. Expect Hilton.
Must be a Hilton Honors member. Applicable terms and conditions at Hilton.com. Pinky swear.
If you're experiencing a temporary financial hardship and are struggling to pay your mortgage, we may be able to help you keep your home. Hardest Hit Alabama is a federally funded foreclosure prevention program. If you qualify, Hardest Hit Alabama.
All right, so here we go. We're on YouTube. We're on our Periscope. We're on Facebook. Martin Houston, Ryan Fowler. We do Alabama Tradition every single Tuesday as we talk more Alabama Crimson Tide football. We're going to break down Arkansas. We spent a little time. We're going to celebrate something that Martin Houston really holds something very, very important. He's been a strong advocate. We're going to talk about it coming up in a couple of minutes. We'll also get to Alabama LSU. We're going to spend a significant amount of time on that because it's such a huge matchup here on Alabama Tradition.
We can't know. I can't know. I got no crystal ball. I don't know how he's going to do in Wednesday's practice. I don't know how he'll do after that. So is it fair to say I don't know? Yeah, I don't know. Nobody knows.
Is there something that you want him to get to that you feel comfortable with?
No. If he can perform to the best of his ability, I'm not going to put him in a situation where he can't do it. All right? And if he can perform, he'll be able to play. If he can't perform, then he won't play.
All right, so there it is. Nick Saban having a little fun there with the reporters. And he doesn't know. I mean, let me take both sides of this. And I've said this multiple times. When you look at Nick Saban, he's going to be asked that question a ton. The farm. that he'll be asked about Tua Tagovailoa, because it is their job as reporters to ask questions. Nick Saban doesn't have to answer that question, but they're going to be asked. It is the number one topic in college football when you talk about Tua Tagovailoa. Alabama, LSU, number one against number two, and it's one of your quarterbacks that is in doubt, and he will return to the practice field tomorrow. Nick Saban can give you the answer. Nick Saban should have took a different approach. He was wrong. He came out Saturday night. He was probably so excited, seeing his 2009 team, watching the way that his team played, even though he put it on cruise control in the second half. He came out and he made a mistake in the press conference. And this is what he said. He said, when you talk about Tua Tagovailoa, he'll return to practice Wednesday. And he left that door open. The best thing that he could have said, it will be a game time decision. And he would have shut the door on every other comment. But he left it open enough. Now you're going to have people asking about it, asking about it, asking about it. And it will continue for several more days.
So you think Nick Saban made a mistake?
I do think Nick Saban.
No, he didn't.
What did you think he should say?
Nick Saban said what he meant to say, because now it makes LSU start splitting time.
But by doing that,
evenly.
the trade-off is going to be frustrating questions, and Nick Saban is.
But would he rather Nick Saban's psychology?
Sure.
Would he rather deal with frustrating questions that he can now start giving more information or less information that impacts what they're doing down in Baton Rouge? Because right now, if you had a regular week and a game week, you would spend this week on Mac Jones. And that's all you would spend time on.
You're right. I mean,
because you have a normal
so now
work
they're
week.
giving him something to think about.
Now all of a sudden you're going, dang it, we really need to split this time in case he comes back instead of just waiting because.
So okay, all right.
But
So
now
give me the perfect answer.
Watch and see if Nick Saban doesn't come back and say something about progress is slow or it's not. He is going to.
So he will talk tomorrow morning, and he'll talk tomorrow after practice.
He's going to play with this Tua Tagovailoa thing
and make them think.
And don't be surprised if when we go out to media, the media viewing period, that there's no Tua Tagovailoa.
I'm with you.
Or we'll see Tua Tagovailoa out there doing very limited stuff, which in no way indicates that he's ready to play.
Right.
He's using it. Nick Saban that was too. When he said it, I was like, why would Nick Saban say that?
Okay.
Unless he wants to create something on the other side.
All right. If you're Nick Saban, okay, here we go. If you're Nick Saban and you're trying to protect your quarterback, what do you do in practice? Because this is part that we don't really grasp, okay? LSU prep, according to Nick Saban, will start on Thursday as they'll prepare for LSU. And they'll spend maybe a couple of extra days, but they're not going to spend all of their time. How would you protect this guy? How would you protect him? Football's a contact sport, guys, and as much as they do what they call thudding, and they keep guys up off the ground, which is so important because so many injuries happen when they're rolling around and you roll on an ankle, you roll on a knee, and something happers in practice. What do you do?
Tua Tagovailoa will not be in any contact drills. If they're running plays, like running the ball, like a run drill or something like that, Tua Tagovailoa will not be in because the lineman could get blocked back into him. He will probably participate in 7-on-7 type of stuff where there's no lineman in front of him, Ryan, because the reality of is this. Tua Tagovailoa can hand the ball off. Okay? If the offensive line protects him, then the timing is what it is. So they'll go full speed when he does his practice. They'll go full speed with all that. But as far as running, I think full speed team drills, I don't think you're going to see him running in a team practice, team periods.
So you're just saying just to kind of knock the rust off of him just a little bit to stay in rhythm? You don't think he'll be on team?
Do you? I mean, think about what...
I know I would.
Think about...
I'd put him in one of those, you go out to these events and they have these Siamese like you know what I'm talking about?
Sumo wrestling.
Yeah, the sumo wrestling. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know. The
That's
sumo wrestling
Yeah,
costume.
I'd put him in one of those.
Bubble wrap.
Yeah, bubble wrap him, and that's the way I'd walk him out of practice.
No, like I said, I think that he will do all non-contact stuff because with Tua Tagovailoa, it's going to be about timing. It's not going to be about him running the ball. It's not going to be about him handing the ball off. So why risk putting him in those drills unless it's, like he'll run all of the shotgun plays, the pistol plays, things like that. But anything where he's in the line of scrimmage, under center, taking, anything like that. And then the guys will be told if he is in with those drills, they're going to be told, hey, take your first couple of steps and stop. I just don't see you taking that chance with him. Now, all the other positions, like if a guy was an offensive lineman, to me, you would need him to physically show that he's ready to play because he's going to be going against the guy and he needs to see if he can plant that foot and push off. Everything that Tua does, he can do from, without contact. That's why these quarterbacks, if you want to know why freshman quarterbacks come in ready to play now, it's because they do 7-on-7 drills. Why wide receivers come in, it's because they're not physical contact sports. The reason offensive linemen have a hard time is because you can't fake another 300-pound guy bench pressing 450 pounds against air, and you can't find it at other high schools. But in the passing game, you can simulate virtually all of the timing, all the routes, and everything. So I would not expect Tua Tagovailoa to be anywhere near other feet during the prep work.
All right, before we get back to Tua Tagovailoa and Alabama and LSU, Mark Houston, a national champion winning fullback at the University of Alabama, is a strong advocate. So am I, but I don't think I'm on the same level as Mark Houston. He understands what it takes to be a student athlete at the highest level, playing here at the University of Alabama. The NCAA today gave some clearance. And Coach Stallings always says, if the NCAA is for it, I'm against it. Did they make the right decision today? The decision makers voted unanimously on Tuesday to start the process of modifying its rule to allow college athletes to profit from their name, images, and likeness in a manner consistent with the collegiate model. Did the NCAA take that right step? Mark Houston, are you pleased with this first step? You look at the word, unanimously. Do you like it?
I'm totally pleased with it for two reasons. One is I think something needed to change, something needed to happen. I've heard, this is going to destroy college athletics. Well, you know what? When the NCAA started, people were saying that what was going on then was going to destroy college athletics. When they started giving scholarships, that's going to destroy it. When they started giving stipends, that's going to destroy it. Everything's going to destroy it. That's what we do. We jump to the worst before we know what the guidelines are. I don't know what the guidelines are. I think there needs to be some guidelines around it, Ryan. I think it needs to be tied to education. I think if guys aren't progressing, in other words, if a guy comes in as a freshman and his image and likeness does something, but he's not taking care of his business in the classroom, there needs to be guidelines that limits his ability to turn around. Because if he's just going out there on that football field and he's not taking care of being a student, he should have a consequence, a negative consequence that goes with that. I think there should be limits. People say, well, you can't put limits on it. Well, baby, if you want to make it about paying players and like professional in that sense, you can put caps around it, just like you have in the NFL. Even though it's a business and it's capitalism, there's still caps around it. I think there needs to be restrictions around who and what and how they can do it. If it's not in line with the mission of the university and the academic side of things, if it's products and things like that, they should not be allowed to do it. So there's so many guidelines that need to do it, but I'm just glad that there's a conversation around it, Ron. I told you, I love Daniel Moore. So this is not a thing against Daniel Moore at all. I know he's a big part of the game, and he's been a part of my life. I was fortunate to be in one of his prints. Love him. But I just think there's something fundamentally wrong that Daniel Moore, 2 weeks after Najee Harris made a great run, that he could commission a print and Najee Harris couldn't commission an artist himself to do that same
but
print.
let me add to it. And not that because Daniel Moore and I have a great relationship, and I know you do as well. But what if he went to Najee Harris and said, "Hey, let's team up.
I think that would be awesome.
Let's team up."
That would make the prints even more valuable.
Sure, because hey, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to sign your name right here, and I'm going to be able to get. I'm just throwing out $1 instead of $200, $250 or $275 or $300.
If there was a partnership, if there was a partnership,
so
that's
then
what
we
I'm
all
saying.
benefit.
But think about this,
Hey,
Ryan.
Tua Tagovailoa, I'll pay you to come sit in the studio for an afternoon.
Ryan, think about this.
Things like that. Those are likeness and benefits that hopefully this NCAA opens up.
Ryan, I'm from Center, Alabama. Everybody always says it's only going to be the big guys. It's only going to be the big schools. Exactly. And that's the point, Ryan. But in my hometown, I was a big deal.
Sure.
And there was opportunities that I would have got to take advantage of and things like that, because even though my name wasn't as big as the Jay Barkers and I wasn't from those the big cities and all of that, there still would have been things that I could have taken advantage of. So everybody says it's just going to be the big athletes, it's just going to be the big schools. Not so fast. Think about and this is going to sound crazy, think about a Texas State. All of a sudden, they have a lot of money. And if they can partner and do things, all of a sudden they may become a relevant program in their level of competition. What about an SMU that's going to be following the rules, that have money to create opportunities for image and likeness? It's going to impact recruiting. Do we lose Bryce Young to USC now? Because he can now stay at home, and in California, you think branding? You think they got branding figured out there? Hey, Bryce, why don't you stay here? You can play at USC.
So is this a compromise? Because the one thing that they did make a disclaimer, they said, hey, we're going to have a separation between college sports and the pro sports. We're not going to allow people to offer recruiting incentives to come to play at a certain university. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to control some of that.
It's not recruiting incentive, Ryan. It's the fact that how many dealerships are in Tuscaloosa? If I can do my image and likeness, how many dealerships do I have in Tuscaloosa versus Texas, versus California? You see what I'm saying? It's not that the opportunity for my image and likeness to be branded in California at California or Fresno State. Even in California, Fresno State can get players to come for image and likeness as part of their thought process that may be as attractive as coming to the University of Alabama.
So there's people out there that are critics that say that this is not enough. This is not enough. But at least it's a start in the right direction, because you got to remember, Mark Emmert pretty much told the state of California
he said it would never happen under his watch.
And so now you're seeing Mark Emmert. Now, yes, that Mark Emmert that was a part of Nick Saban's life at LSU and was one of the main reasons why he left Michigan State and headed to LSU. I'm not here to criticize one of Nick Saban's friends, but Mark Emmert is a guy that's now backing off of some things that he said, and he's looking at it. So how does that impact it? Does it have an immediate impact? We'll see. I mean, they're talking about how they can implement this in a timely fashion, but as we always like to say, the devil's in the details.
And that's the key, Ryan. I don't know how you be a critic that it didn't go far enough, and I don't know how you be a critic of it being, because we don't know what it is yet. It's just simply a decision to start the process.
Sure.
And to me, how do we know it's going to be bad? How do we know it's going to be good? I'm just glad the conversation is happening. And here's the thing, Ron. I hear everybody out there, and especially fans, say, well, it's a college sport. Well, the only place it's still a college sport is for the athletes. The ADs, the universities, the coaches, the assistants, the media, everybody is benefiting, and they're benefiting no different than an NFL team. The only people who are not benefiting from this game being a college sport, and here's the thing, I've heard people even say this, Ron. I've heard them say, well, what about the other sports? Well, Well, what about the football players at UConn? The girls' basketball team gonna get a heck of a lot more endorsements and opportunities at UConn than the boys. So I don't think it's as big a deal as when I hear people say that. And I think the opportunity. I'm glad it's happening, Ryan. And I'm sorry.
No. This is his soapbox, and I'm fixing to push him off the edge here in about 2 seconds.
I'm glad it's happening.
Just wait, Jacob. Just hold on. I'm telling you what. Just watch this.
I'm glad it's happening, and I'm glad because I've never said the universities need to start paying. If the universities get on the paying side, it needs to be a trust, something that is set aside for if you graduate, you get this. But this is about image and likeness and opportunity that I can go out if I can brand myself. And you don't have to be at a big university to brand yourself. You don't have to be a star athlete to brand yourself. There was a kid from UCF who was a field goal kicker who had a website
and they shut him
and they shut him down.
Right.
That is wrong because it was not his football that did that. That was his ingenuity and his ability, and that's what I'm glad to see.
All right, so here's my rebuttal. You ready? This is like throwing gas on a fire, okay? They already get a free education.
Yeah. Free education.
That's not really my thoughts, okay? I just like to push Martin's button right here. This is Martin's, like, I'm telling you, like, he explodes.
For all of you who think I got a free education, I would like to see you all work for free the way I work for free. I'd like to see you get up and go to class from 8 to 12, get out of class from 12, go eat lunch, from lunch, go over, get taped, and get to the film room, watch film for an hour and a half to 2 hours, go out on the practice field and turn around and practice for 2.5 to 3 hours. And because you messed up on one play, you have to run 30 extra minutes. Then you get to shower, go eat, go do your homework, and go to bed and get up and do it again so that you as a fan can come out and enjoy a game on Saturday. We do all that for free. I did not get a free education. I got a paid education. Now, I have no problem. I had a paid education, and I'm proud of that paid education. But I promise you, baby, it was not free.
I just like to aggravate Martin on that because, listen, we've been at restaurants before, and people will look over there and they'll be like, are they okay? Yeah, we're just discussing football. So I've
it's not free.
It's Martin's.
It's paid.
Like there's a soapbox, and then there's a mountaintop, and that's the one that gets Martin Houston the level. Jacob, real quick, you have written about this. Jacob is the executive producer of Alabama Tradition. Does a lot here locally in Tuscaloosa with our flagship station, Tide 100.9. You've written about this not on just the local level, but on the national level as well. You went around, you interviewed a ton of players. You've been a big advocate for this. Do you think the NCAA made a right step in the right direction?
I think they did, and Martin was one of the people that I talked to, and I never get tired of hearing Martin talk about this subject because of how fired up he gets and how spot on he is. Because I'm still a student at the University of Alabama, and here I am working in media, in a way, not necessarily, but in a way, profiting off of my name. You know, you just said my name, I'm on air, and I'm getting paid to do it. And Tua Tagovailoa or the 90th man on the football roster or the 100th girl on the rowing team, they can't do that. And it's just mind-boggling to me that they can't do the things that I, a normal student, can do.
Yeah, and my producer on my regular show, just like you, is a student. And I had watched him as an intern, and it would have been wrong for me to look for somebody else to do the job when I had a student who could do the job based on his talents, his ability, and his work ethic. He is now preparing himself for what he's going to do after life. He is building his brand just like Jacob is building his brand. It'd be awesome if Jacob stays here. But Jacob is probably building his brand, and it's going to be big enough, Ryan, that he's going to have a choice. And that's all I'm saying is allow these guys their opportunity to
let them be in a free market. Yeah, I mean, just allow them to go out and make a profit.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's not any different than other students. Let them have that flexibility.
But to your point, you know, that's the excuse that so many people try to put on, especially football players. It's like, well, if you want to get paid, then do good enough to go to the NFL. Well, that would be like telling me that while I'm working here as a student to not get paid, but to still come in here But if I want to get paid, then I got to do good enough that I can go to ESPN or Fox or wherever. And that's asinine.
Right.
I'm still a student and I'm working at a local
All right.
radio station.
Yeah.
This is an awesome conversation.
Or any other sport.
We got to get back to Alabama LSU.
We do?
Yes,
Okay.
we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We got to talk about Heisman Trophy. What's up for stake in that? We'll do that and a lot more. Mark Houston, Ryan Fowler, Jacob across the glass. This is Alabama tradition as we cover the University of Alabama.
Hi there, Saber. Looking for a medical...
All right, so here we go. We're on the social networks, and we're during the break of the radio show. This is a syndicated show that we do throughout, so you get a chance to see us on Periscope. And, you know, Martin, I was looking at us a couple of minutes ago. I got a lot of gray. You got a lot of gray. I mean, I was just looking. We're going to
Mine's white. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Well,
get rid
I
of
mean,
that little bit of black.
I'm going to have to get some of that just for men stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like, because I got a lot of shades in here. I mean, there's a lot of different colors.
Hey, a guy told me the other day, he said his wife told him a man that dyed his beard is up to no good, so he quit dyeing his. So I said my wife doesn't like mine either, so I'm just letting it gray. So
Hey.
I dyed it a few times. I would like to dye it again, but I think I'm gonna just leave it alone.
It shows wisdom. It shows wisdom.
That's what I keep telling myself.
Okay. All right. But I'm curious, when you guys look at your opinion, asking you on the social networks, YouTube, Periscope, what do you guys think about it? You think college athletes should be able to benefit? I mean, is it just a simple yay or nay? I mean, tell me yes or no. It's just a very simple, because I'm curious where everybody stands on this. We've heard Jacob's strong opinions. We heard Martin's strong opinions. My opinions are very simple. I agree with a lot of what these guys are saying. But I'm just curious, where do you guys are on this topic? We're going to get into this Heisman topic coming up in a couple of seconds right here. We're going to talk some Alabama, LSU. I mean, we're going to have some fun here. We're always, I mean, it's a passionate topic of conversation. And Tua Tagovailoa, going to be a lot of fun. I mean, this is going to be an awesome 1 against 2, 2 against 1, 3 against 1. We're going to debate that coming up in a couple of minutes. Why LSU should be number 1, and I loved it. I was celebrating locally here when I saw the AP poll, so we'll talk about it right here. But I'd love to see you guys make a comment there, and let us know where you're listening to us from. Give us a little Bama roll call as we talk more. We're getting things started right here, back on the radio side of things.
app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
Terrell's played really well. I thought he pressured the passer a couple times and did a good job of playing his position. And, when we have him and Anthony out there, I think it really helps our edges, helps our pass rush. I never know until I watch the film for sure, but I thought he had a pretty good night.
All right, so we go back to Nick Saban, and really we begin now to put Arkansas in our rear view mirror, and we begin to look at Alabama LSU. Martin Houston, when you look at Alabama LSU, you're a guy that watches with a very close eye of trying to observe. In your opinion, not the AP poll, not the coaches poll, not. There's everybody has a poll now, but really the ones that we look at is the AP and the coaches poll. And the college football playoff poll will be out next week. Martin Houston's poll. Is LSU the best team in college football for what they've done up until this point? Are they the number 1 team according to you?
If I had not seen any poll, any rankings or anywhere, and I had to line up the teams, I would probably put Ohio State number 1 for this reason. We said a lot.
I'm gonna get on my soapbox.
We hadn't played a lot of teams, and they hadn't played a lot of teams, Ryan. But you don't look at competition. Like I don't look at the fact that we beat Arkansas 48-7. I look at how we beat Arkansas.
Sure.
For the first time, even with Tua or not, that was the absolute most dominant team performance in a long time at Alabama. We dominated every single aspect of that game from offense, defense, special teams. We didn't have any missed kicks. We didn't have any bobble punts. I mean, we didn't have any broke coverages. We had decent returns, and we played well on offense and defense. Barring the one mistake by Ben Davis, we probably walk away with a shutout. Ohio State has been a team, Ryan, that has done that every game. They've done it every game. Okay? They have been the dominant team offensively, defensively, and special teams in every game they've played. That's all you can do. Now, does that mean that there's a gap? I think the poll says it right. The gap between, the first time in a long time, the gap between the top 3 teams, without a doubt, and possibly the top 4, if you put Clemson in there, is minute. Minute. I mean, each team literally. So it's really, you have to put somebody there. And if I was just picking, I would probably put Ohio State or LSU. But remember, I'm saying if I was just looking at the team. Based on resume, I'm putting LSU on. Because they beat the teams that we say are the best teams. But I'm not sure how good Texas is. They could have been beaten by Florida, and they could have been beaten by Auburn, and Auburn's half a team, and I'm not dogging the young man. That's just reality.
All right.
But Alabama will be 3 in the college football playoff poll.
You really think that?
Yes. I mean, I'll be shocked if Alabama's not the 3rd team. I do not.
Okay.
The only reason Alabama will not be number 1 or 2 is because college football understands the power of having 1 and 2 in week 1 of the college football playoff playing each other, and then they know they don't have to worry about putting Ohio State number 2 because they will be there the next week because 1 and 2 loses. But I really believe if you took and there was no games, no television, they would. If this was the last.
So we're sitting here talking about 1 against 2, and it may be 2 against 3.
It could be.
I mean, it may be. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it inflating the game.
Everybody at ESPN and every national.
But you know, those executives at CBS and ESPN, they're calling and saying, "Hey, put these guys at 1 and 2 because they."
And that's why I said I think we're gonna.
I mean, it's all about money. We got to chase the money.
Let's chase the money.
So let me go back to the Big Ten just for a minute, okay? I see this, and I got in big trouble on Twitter. People say things that they would never say, and I do it too. I mean, I'm watching Wisconsin play Ohio State, and I go out on Twitter and I type up a message and I say, you know, it's because here's what it is to me. Now, I'm in this business of media. I get it. And I hate it when we say, well, we have no bias. That's a bunch of baloney.
We all have bias.
Sure. I mean, we're taught at a statistics level that everybody has bias, and it's just such an inaccurate statement. So when you look at bias, we're financially biased. We have an interest of our team that we cover doing good, and having an interest where people, you know, they'll click on our websites and they'll listen to us. We all have a bias. I have a pretty strong bias. But I've often said that I'm unbiased because I hate them all except Alabama. I mean, so I'm unbiased. Right, Jacob? Jacob's looking at me like with
That's
this.
the very definition of bias.
No, but it sounds good. And so we go to Ohio State and Wisconsin just for a minute. Wisconsin went on the road and lost to an Illini team from Champaign that was 2-4. Not a lot of fight in Illinois. When you talk about a 2-4 football team, if Wisconsin goes and wins that game, you would hype that thing out of proportion. You would have heard how great Wisconsin was going to be, and then Ohio State would have beat them the way that they did. I just don't see Wisconsin. Like, they only fell to like number, I think they're still in the top 20, right? So when you look at Wisconsin, to me, where would they fit in the SEC? And I feel like that we inflate teams up there in the Big Ten. It's a one-team league. Michigan's not worth a darn. Jim Harbaugh cannot coach. Who up there is a guy, James Franklin's done a good job at Penn State, but I don't even think that Penn State team is a team that could stay and hang in this league. That league is a one-team league, plus the media hype that we give. Geographically, keep in mind, that is the largest population footprint of any conference in the country.
And that's your answer.
And that's the answer.
That's the answer. I mean, I will give. I think Franklin is making Penn State somebody you have to take consideration for, and also think it's the same way with Michigan. Even though I think he's overrated, and I think he chokes in big games. I think that there's someone that could slip up on somebody. I'd hate Michigan, and I don't think they're very good. But he's playing better, and even Notre Dame is a joke.
But we have it crammed down our throat that the Big Ten is a good football league. When I watch that league, Martin, I feel like that I've got my DVR on like a slow speed. Like there's sometimes I look at the remote and go.
That's why Penn State is legit. James Franklin, the two teams up there that I think are legit is Penn State and Ohio State. But where did their two coaches come from? The SEC. And Franklin is slowly building an SEC type team up there at Penn State, and so is, and of course, that's what Ohio State's been. So that's why those two teams, I think, could compete in the SEC. Now, competing in the SEC doesn't mean you're going to come out and win it, year in and year out. I think Ohio State would be a formidable member. So, but it's right. There's not. I don't think there's a lot of good football teams in college football right now. I don't think there's
dead on the money. You've knocked a home run.
I think that football as a skill set. Now, as far as offensive, it is pretty. But as far as fundamental football, I don't think football is at the level it used to be. From the athletes are bigger, they're faster, the offenses are spread out, but with the fundamentals and the way officials officiate the games, Ryan, I think that football is declining in terms of its execution. I think it's as popular as it's ever been, and people love it as much as they've ever been. But I see guys, man, if I was playing against them, some of these linebackers, I would, and I'm not being, a guy like me would absolutely annihilate some of these linebackers now. I couldn't run by them, but they would not be able to handle the way you physically played football back then.
We are talking Alabama tradition. That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. Coming back in a couple of minutes, we'll talk about the Heisman Trophy. We'll give some early thoughts on Alabama, LSU. How do these two teams match up? The past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide right here on Alabama Tradition.
Here's some inside information on the automatic.
All right, so we had a pretty fun debate there. I probably got some Big Ten folks out there watching, man. You guys have been crazy. But you got to remember, you got more population up there. So I know what you guys are doing. Man, my Twitter account's been blown up. I mean, it's been crazy. All them Buckeyes and them Wolverines, Badgers. Now I'm hearing about the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I mean,
they gave me about 30 this weekend.
Respect the Gophers, right?
I know. I'm like Nick Saban on
Barry
Rock Boys.
Sanderson said that game day should go to Minnesota. I wanted to call and say, Barry, they will be stupid if they go to Minnesota.
They're already going to like SMU and Memphis.
Yeah. So
SMU's undefeated, isn't it?
SMU, but I mean, Ryan,
That explains
but
college
that's
football.
That's a unicorn, though.
SMU goes undefeated, and so does Clemson. You tell me why in the world Clemson should be in the playoff.
What about Baylor?
Baylor too.
Yeah, I mean Baylor.
Oh, hey, we also
Baylor
got to
is
talk
behind.
about. We also got to talk about two SEC teams.
Baylor is behind.
How do you get two SEC teams?
We're getting two because we're going to start advocating. That's why we got to be 1 and 2.
Baylor is behind a 2-loss Auburn. I mean, think about that for a second. And that's what I'm saying. That's where I think the issues with the poll is. But Ryan, the reason they go to Memphis and SMU is just a unicorn. I mean, when was the last time you had this late in the season 2 top 25? Is it AAC? Teams. It hasn't happened, and SMU has not been ranked in Jacob's lifetime.
Yeah, they haven't been ranked since 1982.
Oh wow!
So there's a lot of story behind that. And remember, Texas is a big market, and we look at SMU as little, but SMU is a huge school.
They've got a huge fan base.
Yeah, I mean,
And don't ever forget about that.
Players that made that fan
Yeah, don't ever forget about the cheddar.
They got a lot of money.
Money.
Huh?
They got caught.
And that's probably all goes together.
They got caught.
So, hey, how much time we'll have in this final segment?
8 minutes.
8 minutes,
Just
okay.
short of 8 minutes.
All right, we'll talk Heisman and we'll go back to this LSU, a little bit of Alabama preview, and then
I'll
Okay.
be good.
no, I'm not. I like when you go on in conversations. So Heisman, we'll go Heisman, and then
If you got any comments.
preach it, Houston. That's what it. Roll Tide.
That's right. That's what we have to start doing. Pumping there. So when somebody else comes on, they know we're doing on the comment.
All right, so here we go. The final couple of minutes here. Alabama tradition as we talk more Alabama Crimson Tide football, as we break it down and we spend some time looking at this Alabama Crimson Tide football team, past, present, future, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Heisman Trophy in the final couple of minutes. Heisman Trophy. When we look at the Heisman Trophy, do you feel like that this Heisman contest will be won on November the 9th? Between Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa? I don't know how you could almost say that it won't be won on that evening. It's whichever quarterback comes out and continues to win.
Yeah, I think that if anything was going to fall the right way for Tua being out last week, Ryan, with an injury, it did. Because he could have fallen behind in the race in the eyes of the voters, but Jalen losing, even though Jalen had a great performance, it came in a loss. And then you have Burrows not having a great. He had numbers, but he didn't have a great game in terms of getting it in the zone, and so that kept Tua right in the mix. And so whoever takes this game and then does what they've done all year, the rest of the year, it'll be their trophy to lose. They clearly, whoever wins that game will clearly set themselves apart.
But doesn't Tua have a little bit of advantage, though? I mean, coming out of this with an injury, let's say that he's a grinder, and he goes out. I know he tried to grind last, December and really lost the Heisman Trophy. But if he comes out and just grinds through this LSU-Alabama game, let's say he throws for, 275, 3 touchdowns, which would probably be a little bit low, then you almost say that, does he get that little bit of a margin of error because of the ankle?
I think that Tua performing at a high level and us winning the game absolutely puts him in the driver's seat because of, as you said, the injuries and the fact that he bounced back and shows his toughness. But I also think that it's possible that Burrows could win the game and not necessarily take the trophy if they lean on the running game more. If Alabama takes it away, there's things that could happen in the game that still allows. Remember, the guy who's won it the last couple of years hasn't won the championship and hasn't been undefeated.
All right, in the final couple of minutes here, and we've really got to do this very, very quickly. Oklahoma goes out. Their strength of schedule will fade away. It's kind of like Clemson. Clemson, you lose a game, and we'll see you in 2020 because you're not going to be a part of college football playoffs. You just do not have the march of error. And I think the same really could be said for Alabama. But I do look at LSU. If they come to Tuscaloosa, or now the other side of that, let's say that Tua's not healthy, then your committee may look at that and say, okay, well, with Alabama, with Tua, they're one of the best 4 teams in college football. There's a couple different scenarios, but looking ahead, you've got some open doors now that can allow 2 teams from the SEC. That's the only league that can put 2 teams in. The Pac-12, no. ACC, no. Big 12, no. Big 10, no. The SEC gives a chance here to get 2 teams in. It'll tick the rest of college football. What do you think? What do you think about 2 teams in the SEC?
I think it's a possibility if they go with their mantra that is looking for the 4 best teams. LSU has the best chance to be the 1-loss team for this reason. Alabama has been the number 1 team. They were in the championship, so you expect them to be good. LSU came from nowhere this year, and they have won 3 top 10 games. This would be so they would be 3-1 if they were to lose to us. They would have lost to us on our home field in a big rivalry game. And if it's close, then I don't think they fall out of the top 4 even the next week. I think they still remain in the top 4. If they're number 1, and the lowest they're gonna, if it's a close game with us, they will be at worst number 4. And I think with that, because you'll put who you gonna put in front of them. You're going to put Penn State in front of them. You're going to put Oregon in front of them. You're going to put Florida in front of them. There's not anybody between 5 and 10 that you would put in front of a 1-loss LSU team to Alabama. Alabama could get jumped by, say.
So maybe this is important. Maybe we'll get Martin Houston to start advocating for 1 against 2. No Ohio State. Put them at 3.
I think 1 and 2 is important. But I think the most important is LSU to get 2 teams in. But I don't want 2 teams in. If we beat them jokers, I don't want to play them again. Do you want to play them again? Why are you advocating for 2 SEC teams?
I mean, what do you want, an easier road? I mean,
absolutely. See, that's where we different, Ryan. I hear people say, "Man, I want to play Clemson again." No, I don't. I don't care. I mean, I'll take in the national championship game. I'll take Baylor in the national championship
it's kind of like
I want the ring, baby.
I want to pull for Florida this weekend because I don't want to see Georgia.
That's right. Absolutely, I'm pulling for Florida.
Go.
The last time Alabama and LSU had to play twice.
The team that lost came back in with a vengeance.
But what else? College football playoff.
Oh, you see. Yeah, we go to 6 teams in a hurry if that were to happen.
That's Martin Houston. I'm Ryan Fowler. Jacob Harrison across the glass. Past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide. We do it right here on Alabama Tradition. Leave your comments on our different accounts, whether it's Periscope, Facebook, our syndicated stations throughout the Alabama state, up in Jackson, Tennessee as well, North Alabama, South Alabama, West Alabama, East Alabama. We got the state covered. Past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Martin Houston, Ryan Fowler. Roll Tide. Until next time, we talk a little closer to Alabama LSU. Have an awesome weekend. I think my Periscope went out.
It did.
Yeah.
I saw that happen.
I bet you $1 on my batteries. No, it didn't.
You don't know why it stopped? I think we need to start, instead of doing it.
When you drive it home, the way it handles, the way it makes you feel. Smarter, happier, even better looking. Refinancing your old overpriced vehicle loan with a new loan from Alabama One sure can make a person feel good. We'll meet or beat your current rate and we'll pay you up to $250 cash. And what's not to love about that? Check it out at alabamaone.org/refinance. Terms and conditions apply.
Are we going to do anything or are we going to end it right here?
Oh, it went on.
Join the Tide Tailgate
already
pregame
off.
show for
Okay,
every
my bad.
Alabama home
That's
football
okay.
game.
I just jumped up.
Stores Bryant Drive location. Big Gillespie, Mark Burnett, and Jay Barker will break down the Bama game and other key games from around the SEC with in-depth analysis.